Hey, this is Shane, and welcome to my Curator of the Lost Stories podcast. Hey, I hope you enjoy this. It's called Pigs and Indian Money. We rode on a pig's back, played in corn bins, and walked the hills looking for Indian money. It was the summer of 1972. The days were hot, long, and sweaty, but full of fun and adventure. What made this summer different was that my mom was a newly minted hairdresser, fresh with a degree from cosmetology school and working to build her business. During that time frame, my dad was an electrician at an automotive parts plant. As such, when the summer of 72 rode around, they were both working, and I was only 5 years old and much too young to stay at home by myself. So on days they both worked, I had to go to the sitter, the babysitter, if you will. Sometimes that statement conjures scenes and memories that are unpleasant, and thankfully, they're forgettable, but that was not the case for the summer of 1972. That summer, I stayed with a family member, a great aunt, or aunt to those listeners that are not from the southern United States, and to be exact, this was my grandmother's sister on my mom's side. So this great aunt lived about a mile up the road from us, along a narrow tar and gravel road that meandered through the countryside from town. The road didn't have road signs or names per se in the 70s. Each turnoff was a dirt road along its path that was usually named for whoever lived at the end of that particular spur. It would be Ford's Road or Stacy Road or Hawkins Road. You get the point. It's all unofficially named. But interestingly enough, in the 90s, the county put up the official street and road signs. You know, the typical small green slats with white reflective letters that you see on city streets. And when the signs went up, all the unofficial names became official. My great aunt's name was Bobby, and she was a kind and sweet lady that always had a quick smile. Unlike some babysitters, I never questioned or dreaded going to Bobby's. She had 6 boys, 3 older than me and 3 younger than me, so I fit in perfectly. She treated me like one of her own children, and we had a great summer. Bobby's house had a large fenced yard and old barns to the side and miles of woods in the back. And beside the house, across the dirt driveway, there was a large treed side lot that was home to feed pens and corn bins, tractors and farm animals to include goats and guineas, and most notably a few pigs. Everything outside the main house was our playground. We would play in the barn and climb and jump into the corn bins, making games out of the dried husk and ears of feed. And among the many animals that were in or near the barn, there was a jet white pig with a bright pink nose that we called Arnold Ziffel. It was named after the star of the Green Acres sitcom. Arnold was a nice and accommodating pig that would let you ride on his back, if you could catch him. Arnold was always amazingly clean. Not just clean for a pig, but clean in general. White hairs and pink flesh always seemed bright and clean, not like the other pigs in the pen. Unfortunately for the yin to Arnold's yang, the pen also contained a full-grown black and white sow that was big and hairy and dirty and angry all the time. As kids, we didn't have a name for that black and white sow, but we feared her tremendously. She was exceptionally mean and would just as soon chase you down and eat all the fingers off both hands as to look at you. She might have had a name, but as far as we were concerned, she was the spawn of Satan. When coming across the feed pens, or from the old barn, or toward the corn bin, we always kept an eye out for that devil pig, even if we were riding Arnold at the time. Indian money was the currency of that summer. We would play in the steep hollows behind the house and find the little fossilized rings of coin that we termed Indian money. It was the fossils, the remains of some long-forgotten sea creature. They resembled stacks of dimes or pennies. There was nowhere to spend Indian money. It wasn't really money, but if you were lucky, you could fashion the fossilized remnants into a long necklace using pieces of leather. It could be forged into something that you could wear through the woods with pride, and it brought a recognized level of prestige among all the kids of summer. When the summer of 72 ended, I started kindergarten, and I also started speech therapy. No one could understand me. Maybe it was because of my time running around the farm and corn bins and into the deep hills and hollows behind the house like a wild heathen. I suppose I didn't learn to talk like a normal child. My speech wasn't meant to be a secret language. I suppose it was more of a lazy approach to verbal communication than a semblance of language at all. Syllables and pronunciation were sacrificed for the sake of brevity. We as kids could understand each other, so why did we need to change? Regardless, as I started kindergarten, speech therapy was very much needed. My biggest problem turned out to be the S and TH or the sounds. I worked periodically with a speech therapist and very much frustrated. I had to practice my enunciation at home. But by the time I started first grade, my speech was greatly improved and mostly corrected. Although nearly 50 years later, there are times when I catch certain words that I have to concentrate on for an instant. Imperceptibly to everyone but myself, but I have to concentrate and go through it in my mind to be able to speak the word and enunciate it correctly. My speech therapist is now only an impression of patience with a blurry face and absence of name from a child's distant memory. I hope she understands the good that she provided to me for the rest of my life. And when I think of the summer of 1972 and being rich in Indian money, I can't help but think of her and, of course, Arnold, the amazingly clean and perfectly white and pink pig. That was Pigs and Indian Money. Talk to you soon.